following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Here we go. It's time for the 2024 Dallas Cowboys training camp here at the corner of Ventura and Vineyard in Oxnard, California. In Savannah, you got a huge smile on your face. You've been here for a long time. Mickey got in with the team earlier in the week, and we are set to tell you this is the pregame show for the, as it turns out, for the State of the Cowboys press conference.
You are right about that one.
Mick Shots, brought to you by Miller Lite.
And you can see Bill's a little tougher than us because he's got short sleeves on at 63 degrees.
Is it 63? It doesn't feel like it. I mean, it's...
I thought it did.
I'm still on Dallas on my
The
watch.
breeze is coming in. The California cool air of the morning is just lovely.
I know
isn't it?
you've hated it for a whole week, right?
11 days.
11
Been here
days.
11 days?
Yes, this is day 11 for me.
I got 11 days until I leave. And so, not that I'm counting the days, but here it is. It's really and truly day number 1 of Cowboys camp.
Exactly.
Because this is the first time the team is officially on the practice field, and it's going to, as it turns out, kick off with at 12:30 Dallas time, 10:30 Pacific time, with Jerry and Steven and Mike and the State of the Cowboys press conference that we always look forward to.
The big one. We're
Yes.
waiting for it. We have the pregame for that, as you said. But I'm excited to hear from Coach and Jerry and just hear what they have to say for the opening of camp this week.
And we know what the questions are going to be. It'll pertain to contracts and CeeDee Lamb not being here, and Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons and Mike McCarthy too, when we're talking about last year of contracts. And when I was writing the Mick Shots yesterday, I don't know why this occurred to me, but I mentioned that, Mike McCarthy is on the last year of his contract, and I wonder if a head coach has ever held out a training camp.
That's a good one.
Looking for an extension. No, I'm not coaching. I want an extension, right? Just the way the players do. So, it'll be interesting. Those will be the questions those guys will have to answer. I'm sure somebody will ask Jerry about the delay. This was supposed to be yesterday. It got pushed back today because of his schedule. But I did notice that the Joneses showed up here at 12:30 in the afternoon yesterday. And so reporting for the players was 1 p.m. So they didn't get fined.
So
They
the
got here
arrival
by
for
1.
the Joneses was 12:30 or 2:30 Dallas time.
Right, so they made it
yesterday afternoon.
30 minutes
Okay.
before they got fined for being late.
And for us in the media, it's basically they have the same schedule every year when they come out here. They arrive on a Tuesday, and then the next day they have the big press conference. And so for us in the media, that's what we cover that day. And then on the third day, which is Thursday, which is today, they have the practice, and we start focusing on football. We focus on what Jerry says on Wednesday.
Right.
And so now we've got to cram what Jerry says on Thursday into the first practice, and then we find out that Dak Prescott is also talking after practice today.
Yes.
So why not?
That's just
We just
the
take care
Cowboys
of
way.
We just take care of everything in one day.
I was
Exactly.
just talking to Dr. Cooper, and I said, we finally get something tangible. We go through this whole off season, and you have to come up with different things and, give me the top 5 of this or the top 5 of that. And now we finally get something tangible, but it's like a hurricane hits. Now it's like we got enough stuff for 3 days with all the stuff you said, Bill, going on. But it's quite welcome, let me tell you.
You know what? I got my big blue notebook here.
Oh.
I have a blue one too, Bill.
There you go.
Look at
All right. I
that.
thought that was appropriate. Yeah. Wow. How about that? And There's nothing in it right now. So it's a blank sheet of paper ready for the press conference coming at you.
Yeah, here's my preparation.
2.5 hours.
Or this, my notes.
And the other thing, and I want to pick both of your brains on this because I've been out of touch in the off season because of the playoff run of the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Mavericks. In fact, I was in Boston at the NBA Finals when the minicamp occurred, so I wasn't able to be there for that. And then as it turned out, when the availabilities during OTAs, I was busy doing basketball and hockey stuff. And so I'm coming into this with a clean slate in my own mind about what this training camp is going to be like.
You know what? And I think we all are, Bill, because as we know, the OTAs and the mini camp, and for all impractical purposes, the first 4 practices is like flag football. It's, the pads don't come on till next Tuesday. So the thing we could see is how they were lining people up, where they were putting some guys, what teams they were on, and what opportunities they were giving some guys to maybe upgrade their snaps heading towards the season. And, a couple of things I think we noticed during that time, at least I did, is that it sounds like they were going to give Cavante Turpin a real opportunity to play wide receiver.
They need to.
A real opportunity to get him the ball either on end arounds or in the backfield as a running back. The fact that they started lining up Deuce Vaughn a little bit more in the slot in some of the formations, or starting as a running back and then motioning into the slot as a receiver, things like that. I think they think a lot of Marshawn Nealon as a defensive end, and we're giving him until he suffered a minor injury, he was getting some first-team snaps at right defensive end.
And he, of course, the second-round draft pick, Marshawn.
Right, and the weird thing that happened to him, and I can't remember if it was, I think it ended up being in the rookie mini camp where there was no contact or whatever, but he had a unfortunate circumstance. He got hit in the nose, and he had to have his nose straightened out, right? And so he ended up being taken out of any drill that they didn't have a helmet on. But yeah, it was like the weirdest thing. He was almost embarrassed, right, when he was telling me about it, and he goes, "Yeah, no big deal, no big deal." But I think this kid's got something, and they really need for him to have something going forward.
You know why? You know what? It tells me that they think highly of Marshawn Nealon. The number he's wearing.
94.
You give a player the number 94, and that's a pretty special number.
You were right about that.
Savannah, what is it as we start this training camp that you're most interested in watching on the practice field?
I feel like we have so many training camp battles this year at different positions. I'll touch on a few. Wide receiver, you're looking for that number 3 slot there. Jalen Tolbert, Brooks, Cavante Turpin getting some opportunities. And I will say, not having CeeDee Lamb at this moment, who is not reported to training camp, it gives some of these guys that are younger some opportunities to get more reps in. And so that's where some of these battles start to take place. And I know that wide receiver one is top of mind. Tight end, that's another one I'm looking at. Peyton Hendershot and then Luke Schoonmaker. We obviously have Jake Ferguson, who I believe in his 3rd year is going to do immense things. However, you still have to have these guys kind of fighting for whatever that second opportunity looks like at the tight end position. So Hendershot, Schoonmaker, kind of up in the air there. And then I'm looking at the center position as well. That's a big one. Brock Hoffman, obviously, I would say is a little bit more experienced, but you have Cooper Beebe that you put in there. And then you have some other guys on the offensive line that are kind of looking to solidify their position. So I'm more excited to see the battles because I feel like this is the year where there's more of them than any other year.
There's more opportunities for younger guys to step up.
And you know why? You know why there's more opportunities?
Because they had 11 guys leave in free agency.
and they basically only signed 2 that are potential starters in Zeke Elliott and Eric Kendricks.
Exactly.
I mean, Royce Freeman was another one they signed, but and that is that is something that is highly unusual, and yet that says a lot about how they feel about some of the young guys on this roster. And, I look at I kind of liken this to the Cowboys' first preseason opponent, the Los Angeles Rams, last year. And I remember at this time a year ago, the Rams, because they were salary cap and had a problem with the salary cap,
because they were all in the year before,
right?
Yep. And they had so many players on their roster that I study it pretty intently, but there were a lot of no-name guys on their roster, and they built through the draft, and they wind up making the playoffs last year. It was an unbelievable job, not only as far as the head coach is concerned, but their personnel department in putting guys in position. Of course, now they've had Aaron Donald retire in the meantime. But they had Aaron Donald, who was, when he signed his contract, the highest paid defensive player in the league. They were spending a lot of money on Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp also, and so it's kind of the same situation the Cowboys find themselves in this year. And so now this is going to be a real test of the scouting department and what the work that they've done in finding these players that a lot of people haven't heard of that are going to emerge here. And that's why we're having more training camp battles this year, because in most years all you have to do is follow the money, and
right.
You know exactly who's going to make the team. And you can probably, as training camp starts, figure out 48 of the 53 players on the roster, barring injury, who are going to make the team. And this year, it's more up in the air.
And, it's not just lip service when Mike McCarthy will say our improvement has to be from within. It's like
right.
People ask me, well, how did this team improve? It's like, well, that's what we're going to training camp to find out.
And part of it is doing what you suggested with Cavante Turpin.
Right.
And you've got a guy who is multi-talented, and he can do more for this football team than just return kicks.
And Savannah brought up the tight end position, and there's two young guys that I think are going to attract people's attention. We forget John Stevens last year, the undrafted rookie free agent, was going to make this team until he tore his ACL. And so now he's back, and he and DeMarvion Overshown, along with David Durden, three young guys last year that had a shot of making this team and actually playing, all tore their ACLs and spent their rookie season rehabbing. And there's another guy, and I saw him yesterday when I was going by, yesterday evening going by the locker room, and I looked at him and I was like, who is that guy? Tall, well structured, and it was the undrafted rookie tight end Brevin Spahn Ford. And he's attracted some attention from this team
because of his height. He has the height.
What is he? He's like
I think he's 6'6".
6'6", 260, right? 24 years old. So this is not just a young kid, right? And by
the way,
out
if
of
you're
Minnesota.
watching video highlights, whatever, camp, he wears number 47. So there.
Very good.
It's one thing I think we should do at training camp, because of all the new players, is when we talk about them, we'll mention their number too, in that way.
Yeah.
When you just see something on social media or whatever of a player, you go, oh, that's
can't tell the team without a scorecard, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I got the numbers here, guys. You just let me know who we need.
So yeah, there's young guys like that having opportunities. There's young guys like DeMarvion Overshown that they need to step up.
That's the guy that I really want to see this camp.
Absolutely.
And he was making a huge impression last year, and they had all these plans for him. And what was it, a week or so into training camp, and he tears his ACL. So. Which, by the way, today will be the day they have to put guys on physically unable to perform. I was told at that last mini camp that the plan was to start with Trayvon Diggs on PUP, and it wasn't because he was behind or anything. They just felt like his time could be better spent continuing to rehab than to get out there and start playing football, and then you have less time to rehab. So they're probably going to start him off there. That's what I'm expecting. But it had nothing to do with him not being ready for the start of the season. It was all kind of the plan on how to bring him along. But the other three guys, I think they're ready to go, the ACL guys. The interesting one will be Mozzie Smith to see if he's ready. He spent the entire offseason rehabbing from the shoulder surgery, trying to get in better shape. So we'll see exactly where he is when this starts. Harold Nash, the strength and conditioning coordinator, that was kind of his pet project in the offseason. He was one-on-one rehabbing Mozzie Smith. And they really need him to step up because the depth at that nose tackle position is very thin. And you don't want thin stuff at the nose tackle position.
No.
That's right. And the three ACLs that you're talking about are number 13, DeMarvion Overshone, number 81, John Stevens, and number 85, David Durden.
And Stevens, I mean, when you come out of college like that, and remember his days at TCU, he was a wide receiver and still was a wide receiver at Louisiana until the Cowboys kind of looked at him and said, this guy could be a tight end. And you spend a year not only rehabbing but in the weight room, he looks the part now of a tight end. Not that he put on a ton of weight, but just the body structure looks like an NFL player.
Mickey told me earlier this offseason, it was during minicamp, I believe, he said, I'm going to be an expert on all these guys doing rehab by the time training camp comes. And I think that has been accomplished, if you ask me.
Well, you just see those guys working out there all the time. And
exactly.
You know, with Britt Brown and then Harold Nash. And you kind of see how devoted they are to get back. You know, first time I think all three of them suffered an injury, and you're left out, and all you can do is rehab. And I think these guys did it full steam ahead.
You know, it's interesting because just the setup at the Star in Frisco, you're able to just at your office desk be able to look out and see some things that are going on the practice field, like during the off season, the rehab guys. One of the things last night that was very interesting right out here, we were doing our live shot at for the 10 o'clock newscast last night. So the sun was just setting, and it was basically out here, the sun goes down right around 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And so by the time we hit our newscast or sportscast time at 8:20, out on the field, there were 4 players out here that were just going. One of them had like his cell phone, and I didn't recognize the players. I assume they were players.
They didn't have their numbers on it.
They weren't equipment staff guys or anything, but they were out there, and they were doing a little skull session on their own. Just running through plays. It was like wide receivers and a tight end, and probably rookies on the roster. And one of them had his cell phone. He was calling out the plays, and they would line up and then go through the motions of the play. It was really interesting to see. I would love to find out who the players were, because it really shows work ethic, and an attention to detail, and I want to not to get screamed at in practice today.
Let's do some digging. We'll do some digging. We'll see if we can find out who it was.
Well, that was one of the things that caught my eye or ear, whatever, of Cooper Beebe when he came in for the rookie mini camp, and they put the players up at the Omni right next door, and found out that so he's making a transition from guard to center. And he really hadn't played any center practice a little bit, but so he has to. One of the transitions is not only switching position, but switching into position, you got to snap the ball, right? So talking to him, he pointed out that he goes, I carry a football around with me, and we went into the ballroom, and I got anybody that would catch for me, I was snapping. And so at night in the ballroom, he was snapping deep snaps to try to get used to snapping the football, and I'm going, okay, I like this kid. I like him even more now, that the effort in his downtime.
And then to even add on to that, when he was drafted, he would go out into his backyard with his dad and his brother and practice some snaps with them. So that's some dedication, if you ask me.
And that's why I think the kid has a chance. But as Savannah pointed out, it'll be a pretty good competition between Brock Hoffman and Beebe at the center position.
So I want to dive into our first-round draft pick Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. Where are your guys' thoughts on where he is at? He was one of those guys that came in 2 days after he was drafted, came down to Dallas and already started putting in a little bit of work. He has that drive. He has that motivation. What are your expectations for him out here at training camp?
You know what? And that is a great tease for when we come back in just a moment here. Producer Supreme, who, by the way, like me, is braving the elements of this. You said 63-degree weather.
In a T-shirt.
In a T-shirt and shorts over there. And so Producer Supreme says, let's take a break. And when we come back, Savannah, you set us up once again for Tyler Guyton, the first-round draft pick out of the University of Oklahoma when we come back.
Miller Lite is brewed with great taste and only great taste.
The Miller Brewing Company would like to issue a correction. Miller Lite is brewed to be less filling. What are you doing here?
Miller Lite tastes great.
Look, I'm just reading the script. It says less filling.
That's not what my script says.
Well, mine says.
We'd like to apologize for the previous announcers. Miller Lite is in fact less filling and tastes great. Time to shine, legal guy.
Celebrate responsibly. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Beer. 96 calories and 3.2 grams carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Fall is here, and that means football is back, bringing all the delicious game day foods with it. As you prep for all the big games, tailgates, and watch parties, let Yo Quiero be your one-stop destination for all things home gating. Yo Quiero's fresh, flavorful, ready-to-serve guacamole made with real Hass avocados will score taste bud touchdowns as you cheer on the Cowboys. Yo Quiero's wide range of mouthwatering and versatile products can be found in your local grocery store's produce or deli section. Grab some today.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Back to Mick Shots.
The official 2024 Dallas Cowboys Star Magazine training camp preview is now available. This year's edition features scouting reports, position analysis, a pull-out schedule, poster, and articles from your favorite Cowboys writers. Get your training camp preview today at your local pro shop or dallascowboys.com/star. All right, you guys, I brought up the question Tyler Guyton before we went to break. Now, I want to hear from both of you on your expectations from the Cowboys' first-round draft pick. He came in a couple days after he was drafted, already started putting some work in Frisco. Where are you guys at with Tyler, and what do you want to see out of him here at training camp?
Well, I want to see how quickly he's able to transition, number one, from right tackle to left tackle. And generally what the Cowboys do with maybe a first-round pick like that, they just don't hand him the starting job. They make him earn it. So if we look at what took place in OTAs in the mini camp, Chuma Edoga, they give deference to the veteran guy. He was working with the first team. Guyton was working with the second team. I'll be interested to see how long that lasts, because I think as soon as he shows that he understands what's going on, he's capable, that he moves to the first team at left tackle. And they really need him to step up. Nothing against Chuma, but I think at this point in his career, he's a backup swing tackle. And I don't know that you want him out there 60 snaps a game, 5 games in a row. if you can help it.
Sounds like you're giving him a second chance here, Mickey.
Who's that?
Chuma?
Chuma? No, I'm saying.
We had a different opinion a few months ago.
Those are more positive comments about Chuma than what I've heard in the past.
That he's a backup swing tackle.
Yeah, you've got him a spot now.
Well,
you actually do have a clean slate on that legal pad. You're going to give him a chance here.
I don't know who the opponent or the competition would be for the backup job.
Now let's monitor this as we go along here, and when Micah lines up on Chuma, and see what Mickey's reaction is the next day.
Well, I'll tell you why he's the backup swing tackle, right? It's sort of like backup quarterbacks. You don't find out usually about backup quarterbacks until they have to play. They're really good as a backup, and then you go out there and play, and it's like, oh, so that's why he's not a starter. So, but I want to see Guyton take over that spot, and I think they really need him to step up and be ready to go. Now, Bill's seen him play more than I have. He looks like... So
you can turn the tables on me.
That's right.
Bill, give us your opinion.
And I'm giving him a clean slate to start off. And that's, he's obviously one of the main guys we need to focus on and see where he is in his development. Because it's not only, I think, switching from right tackle to left tackle. And he did play a little bit of left tackle in college, but it was primarily at right tackle. And the school of thought was that, well, we're playing him at right tackle because Oklahoma had a left-handed quarterback in Dylan Gabriel, so he's protecting his blind side. But it's still this different technique, switching from right tackle to left tackle. But the biggest thing on him is he's so young, and he
hadn't played that much football,
in terms of his football playing experience. Late bloomer. Played on the defensive side at Manor, Texas, outside Austin, coming out of high school, then goes to TCU, and didn't have it was still a developmental thing. He was one of those guys that Gary Patterson made a living off of in his coaching staff, of getting guys with potential that can develop into take a defensive player who can turn into an offensive tackle or whatever. And then he got the opportunity at Oklahoma, and with one of the best offensive line coaches in the college football, and Bill Beatonbow, who has produced a number of NFL offensive linemen, and so the track record's been pretty good there. And when you've got that to go off of, comparing him to past guys coming out of that program, then that sets the bar a little bit higher for him, and it needs to be high since he was a first-round draft pick.
And, we can say we see what he did in these off-season workouts, but until the pads come on, you don't know about offensive linemen. And that's the downside of being an offensive lineman in the NFL these days. You just don't get enough pad work to develop as quickly as you'd like to. And if you think about it, the Cowboys in the 90s made a living out of developing guys that got kind of pushed to the side, right? And take Nate Newton, who, by the way, is here.
He made it. He made the long trek.
He drove
it. Yes.
Did it in 2 days and put his motorcycle in the back of the truck.
Oh, really?
And brought his motorcycle along, too.
He's going to ride down the Coast 101.
I think he's already did a ride yesterday. Yeah, so big old Nate's here, and we just were at breakfast together this morning. But he did it in 2 days.
All right, very good.
But again, he's a guy that was an undrafted rookie by the Washington Redskins, if you can believe this, 41 years ago.
Wow.
And it was the Redskins.
Well, how about
41 years
how about the guy who wound up being the left tackle on those Super Bowl teams for the Cowboys, Mark Tuinei, who
started as a defensive tackle.
He was a defensive lineman before switching to offense as well. But they had time to develop those guys.
Exactly.
Now, the time to develop a Tyler Guyton is now.
Right.
Now we see where they line up, with when the ones come out, when the twos come out, whatever. There will probably be overreaction to it if he doesn't go out there with the first team. Okay.
Right.
But I don't think we should be alarmed by that. It's a process, and just because day one of training camp he's not lining up with the first team, and I don't know how they'll line up. But just because he's not doesn't mean that he's not going to be there at the beginning of the season, or it may be on a month into the season.
It could be
Who
a
knows?
slow buildup, and as Mickey said, we don't start in pads until next Tuesday's practice, and that's when the real work starts setting in. I mean, you can come out here on the field, you're walking through some of those plays, trying to get familiar with where you're lining up and who you're working around. So Tuesday will be a little bit more of a tell-all, if you ask
Right.
me.
No, absolutely. And for those guys that get in the work, they need to get in. You got to hit. It's the same thing with the running backs. What do you know about the running backs? Well, until they get tackled, you don't know anything about them. Same thing with wide receivers. Not that they tackle wide receivers when they're in team, but you got the chance of getting hit. Are you catching the ball over the middle, or you got, alligator arms? So the pads have to come on, and I think the league has done these players a disservice by limiting how much contact they have during training camp.
And I will bring up the fact that on August 8th is our first scrimmage against the Los Angeles Rams, who will be coming up here. Now, I want to hear your guys' opinions on that. Now, that's where some contact starts to come into play, and you're playing another team that you're, players on a different side that you're not familiar with, and so you're getting that rep and that contact. How do you feel about that? We haven't had a couple years since we've had a team come out here at a scrimmage.
And there was a good reason why, because there was too much contact on the sideline that year than there was on the field. Yeah, and that's what you need. You only have 3 preseason games now. And these guys, the preseason games this year for the Cowboys are going to be ultimately important. Because you've got so many young guys that got to show, hey, I can play football, and you don't find that out until it's all out contact. And my reference was to the Rams here when we had a melee out here at practice that one year when the fight broke out on the far field over there. And the funny thing about it, the Cowboys offense was at the 1-yard line going in, and they lined up, and Romo's under center, and the fight broke out, and everybody on the Rams ran over there except one player. It was their linebacker, veteran linebacker, and Romo snapped the ball, and they handed off and scored a touchdown. Nobody on the other side of the field. Everybody ran over to where the melee was going
Okay,
on.
so you're talking about practicing with the Rams, which is 2 weeks from today on Thursday, August 8th, and then it's the first preseason game is by the way, a Sunday afternoon game, a 3:25 kickoff. It's like they're mimicking a regular season time slot and everything for it, at the Rams. But just think about how much more are we going to know about this team 2 weeks from now than what we do right now?
A lot. I feel like we're going to know a lot more. We're going to see where guys are starting to be lined up. And, like I said, once they get into pads, it starts to develop. But you have to almost prepare for that scrimmage. You have to know what you're doing and what guys you're going to put into different positions. And I think that's where you're going to see a little bit more of where they're solidifying some positions.
So, Bill, when you're doing these preseason games,
Uh-huh.
you better take it seriously because these things are very important to the growth of this football team.
Well, this is
Is Bill not taking it seriously?
I just want him to act like, it's just preseason.
Hey, this is my time. This is the 21st year I've done preseason.
Is it
games.
really?
Yeah. The first year was Bill Parcells' first year.
Oh, 2003.
So maybe 22 years, actually. Yeah, 2003, 22nd year. And that was Tony Romo and Jason Witten's first game, or first season with the Cowboys, their rookie year. And their first preseason game, and Mickey, you were in the booth for it too, with Babe Laufenberg and me.
That's right.
It was at the Arizona Cardinals. And who was playing running back? Well, he may not have played in that game, but who is the running back for the Arizona Cardinals? 2003. A rather well-known name.
Emmitt Smith.
Emmitt Smith.
That was his first year away
How's that?
from the
How about
Cowboys.
that?
Yeah.
So,
that's a good one.
But the thing about the Rams practice is the coaches will look at that as far as applying it to the regular season. That practice will be more important than the preseason game against the Rams on Sunday afternoon.
Well, probably because you get repeated snaps.
You get work that you need.
Right. because they basically usually run it like a regular practice.
Keep in mind also there's a different head coach with the Rams than what have come here in the past, where there have been incidents
where
Jeff Fisher was the head coach.
Whip ass, right?
Yeah. And now it's Sean McVay. He may not even play as starters in that.
But you know what? That practice and that preseason game is going to be really important to Trey Lance, because he's going to get opportunities.
Oh, we've gone 35
we didn't mention the quarterbacks
minutes
yet.
35 minutes. I was just waiting. I was not going to mention Trey Lance. I was going to wait until he just came up in conversation.
Shall we dive in now?
35 minutes.
Is that a tease for our final segment?
We can do that. But 35 minutes before we mention the name Trey Lance. We'll talk Trey Lance. We talk quarterbacks when we come back on Mick Shots, brought to you by Miller Lite.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
Miller Lite is brewed with great taste and only great taste.
The Miller Brewing Company would like to issue a correction. Miller Lite is brewed to be less filling. What are you doing here?
Miller Lite tastes great.
Look, I'm just reading the script. It says less filling.
That's not what my script says.
Well, mine says.
We'd like to apologize for the previous announcers. Miller Lite is in fact less filling and tastes great. Time to shine, legal guy.
Celebrate responsibly. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Beer. 96 calories and 3.2 grams carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Fall is here, and that means football is back, bringing all the delicious game day foods with it. As you prep for all the big games, tailgates, and watch parties, let Yo Quiero be your one-stop destination for all things home gating. Yo Quiero's fresh, flavorful, ready-to-serve guacamole, made with real Hass avocados, will score taste bud touchdowns as you cheer on the Cowboys. Yo Quiero's wide range of mouth-watering and versatile products can be found in your local grocery store's produce or deli section. Grab some today.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Back to Mick Shots.
Dallas Cowboys youth football and dance camps presented by Invisalign are back. Athletes of all skill levels, ages 6 to 16, are invited to learn from the best this summer at Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Campers have the chance to learn technical skills and lessons on teamwork from former NFL players and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. 2 or 3 day camps are available now. Visit dallascowboys.com/camps to learn more and register today. And I actually have a quick little note on these camps. We have a free Oxnard Dallas Cowboys cheerleader camp that they're doing on Sunday afternoon here. And then we have a free youth football camp that is coming here on our practice field on August 11th. So
wow,
lots of youth football happening in the community out here in Oxnard from the Cowboys, which is really awesome.
Here's the Star magazine training camp preview that we talked about coming out of the previous break, and everything's broken down in here, and the first story is an overview of the team going into training camp, and it's really good too, by the way.
I wonder who wrote it.
You'll have to get a magazine to find out.
I think I figured it out already. Trey Lance.
Yes.
Okay, when Savannah posed the question to start the show, what are you most looking forward to, and what was on my mind was Trey Lance, but I wanted to save him for a little bit. Okay, but I am really interested to see not only Trey Lance on the practice field, but Trey Lance in these preseason games.
And not only you, but the team, because they just don't know. I mean, he didn't play but 8 games during his time in San Francisco. I think he only started maybe 2 in each season. And he hasn't played much football. Didn't play much football. North Dakota State.
North Dakota State, yes.
Only
National
really
champion.
played that 1 year there. And so when they got him, they basically looked at it as a redshirt year and said, okay, you're going to basically be in quarterback school for the entire season. We're going to work on your technique, your steps, your arm slots, and that's what he did.
And a lot of that had to do with when they got him. They got him at the end of the preseason, right before the regular season. So that's the only way you could handle him then.
So there wasn't really an opportunity to get him much work. So he would get snaps maybe with the scout team. A couple times he got snaps with the scout team trying to be Jalen Hurts or a mobile quarterback that they were going to go up against. I think he did a little Jordan Love, too, when they're getting ready for the playoff game. But he never really got a bunch of snaps with the first-team offense. Right. We're going to see that out here, and I think you're going to see him start at least those first 2 preseason games.
I think you also have to look at this position, quarterback, with Cooper Rush and Trey Lance. It's a battle. And Trey Lance has all the opportunity to prove that he is the one to step up. I mean, we've seen Cooper Rush and what he can do in the past for us, especially when Dak was injured. But Trey Lance, this is his time to shine. And so I'm interested to kind of chat with him while we're here out at camp and see where his mindset is at, because, you know, you have a lot of time where you're sitting on this roster, you're essentially the third string, and you're just kind of around. To get that first team reps and to have the time to kind of develop with this group, I think is going to be really key, and where his confidence is at is also going to be very key.
Well, and it's going to be key, you guys, with where it goes in the future. Because he also, like all 3 quarterbacks, are on the final year of their contracts, he included. So the Cowboys have to decide at some point, okay, we would like to keep him as a backup quarterback of the future. Is he a potential starter down the line? They've got to find that out, and they got to find that out this training camp and this preseason.
And you mentioned, don't be surprised if he starts the first 2 preseason games. I'd be surprised if he doesn't start the 3rd preseason
3 of them,
game.
That's true, too, right? Since you only have 3.
And
you know what reminded me of last night? We were in there shooting the bull and telling war stories from training camp. And I remember the year that Bruce Coslett was the offensive coordinator.
Savannah, I have a feeling that for the last 17 minutes of Mick Shots, we might be telling old war stories here. Just a warning.
And can you paint the picture? What year are we talking about?
So we got to be around 2002, maybe.
Okay, yep,
there.
Around there. Bruce Coslett.
And Coslett pointed out that in his history, he liked to start the backup quarterback in the second game. So instead of Quincy Carter, I think they started Chad Hutchinson, if I remember correctly. And it caused a stir in the media because it's like, oh,
quarterback controversy.
Yes, right, exactly. So I understood what was happening, and after practice, we were in the Alamo Dome. I walked off with him, and Rob Phillips, I believe it was Rob Phillips, was it Rob with us at that time? One of my interns was with me, right? And I had forgotten my little handheld tape recorder, so I told the intern, turn this on and stay in there and record this, right? Well, Coslett, when I started asking the question, he jumped to the conclusion that I didn't know what he was doing. And he started yelling at me like this is what I do, and and I was like, I know that. That's why I'm asking you. Yeah, well, everybody's asking me. He's yelling and screaming, and whoever had the microphones started here, and the next thing I know, he was way
pulling back.
He was like scared that I was going to get punched or something.
Wow, I've never heard that story.
Oh yeah, Coslett was He was something else, yeah. Do you realize at one point they had Jack Riley and Bruce Coslett as their offensive coordinators?
Explain for the younger generation who Jack Riley is.
Yeah, well, he was a longtime assistant coach. That came to mind last night.
Well, speaking about quarterback controversies, the younger generation, Savannah, won't remember this because you weren't alive, but the quarterback controversies with the Cowboys date back all the way to even when Roger Staubach was with it. Roger Staubach and Craig Morton, and then you had Dan Meredith before that too.
Yeah.
And then even when Staubach was there, you then get Danny White. So you got Danny. Roger had won a Super Bowl by then, and so he had established himself as the starter. But then when Roger retires, and then you get into the 80s we go, and Danny White has success but doesn't get him to the Super Bowl, and so now you got Gary Hogeboom, and one of the most famous Tom Landry press conferences was leading into the 1984 season. And when he announced that Phil Pozderac would start at quarterback for the Cowboys in the season opener, and Phil Pozderac was, of course, an offensive tackle. So and there was an offensive tackle controversy going on then, and so instead it was Gary Hogenblum.
The circle just keeps on going.
And you just brought up
Hogenblum, as what Landry pronounced it.
And you just brought up another story to go back.
I knew it. I was just egging you on there.
That day of that press conference was the day I came to Dallas to interview for my job at the Dallas Times-Herald. And the sports editor comes up to me and apologizes. He says, you know what, we're going to have to delay this for a couple hours. Sit tight. He goes, we just had a press conference, and Tom Landry announced that Gary Hogeboom was going to be the starting quarterback, and our special edition, our football edition for the season is coming out today, and Danny White's on the cover, so we're going to have to make a change. And he goes, and the worst part of it is I can't find my guy that covers the Dallas Cowboys. Part of the job description they gave me was to be the backup guy covering the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, if I don't call this guy an SOB, I might get this job because they need somebody to back up the Cowboys when you got a big story like this and you can't find your beat writer.
So, in essence, I didn't follow all of that, but in essence, Gary Hogeboom didn't last long as the starting quarterback, but Mickey Spagnola has certainly lasted a long time as the starting quarterback. Look who's here! Nate Newton has arrived in Oxnard, California.
Nate Oxnard is here.
I'm just letting you know, when he disappears, I'll be here.
That's right. That's right. So Nate will be joining this show. I'm here. So we're on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Correct.
Next week at 10 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. And then the following week, you have to put up with me next week, and then the following week, Nate will be here.
Should I let Nate
taking
host?
My spot. What's that?
Let Nate host.
That sounds...
We'll see about that one.
Yeah. All right. That does it. I thought we were going to go a full hour, but we're just going here 48 minutes.
Well, everyone has to prepare for our 10:30 Pacific time press conference
on
with
DallasCowboys.com.
Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, and head coach Mike McCarthy on DallasCowboys.com. You guys.
All right.
Good start to training camp here. Good
so
to
we
be
meet
back
again
with you
here
guys.
on Monday.
Monday, 8 a.m.
Monday, 8 a.m. Pacific
10 o'clock
time.
Central.
Okay. A lot will happen between now and then.
Yes, there will.
Got a full weekend.
All right. Enjoy that press conference at 12:30 on DallasCowboys.com.